we've talked about trying not to do depressing episodes. Especially at the end. Because we take off our headphones and go about our day.
Gotta
And
bleep
I'm a
that so
little
we
bit
don't do the
mad
first
now.
seconds.
Now I'm mad. So we talked about Americans and what they think about privacy and their concerns. There's a huge research paper published by whoever I don't remember, and we talk about it. We go off the rails a little bit. We do a little bit of bent. We have had a bent, and
That's good enough.
That's good, yeah. And
that'll do.
We did some bants.
That'll do. Yeah, we committed some bants.
Bants were had.
Bants were had.
Yeah.
Not so critical update.
We often wonder if anybody cares about security. Why do we do this show?
Yeah.
And I think I Am Paitas shared this article in Discord, which everybody should totally come join, talking about how Americans view data privacy. And I guess, I don't know, were you surprised by it or no? What do you think, Peter?
Yes and no. I mean, it was an article by Pew Research. Well, it was a study done by Pew Research, and there were some things in it which maybe like, I don't know. 78% of people trust themselves to make the right decision about their personal information. I mean, where does that confidence come from, guys?
And they're wrong.
Where genuinely, like, how have you come to that conclusion that you think you know what's going on with your personal data? Like, there's some of the questions were quite interesting. 37% of people feel overwhelmed by figuring out what they need to do, and I think that's a low number. 37%. That means that 60...
they probably don't pay attention. Like,
yeah,
to me, it shows this disconnect between, like, I've mentioned this before, stated preferences versus revealed preferences. So towards the top of the thing, they talk about how 60, 65, 70% of people say they are concerned about how the government uses their personal data. 80% are concerned about how companies use their personal data. Throughout the thing, no confidence that that companies are handling their data responsibly. But then, like you said, 75% feel that they're protecting themselves pretty well. So it's this weird balance of like, oh no, I'm really concerned about this, versus then like, but I think I'm probably okay. And then I'm also not really willing to do anything different.
Yeah.
All those all those things are true at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. This is also a 9-page report for anybody. It's very detailed. On the second page, they have a thing about Americans are largely concerned and feel little control or understanding of how companies and the government collect use data on them. So 81% of US adults say that they are concerned about how companies use the data that they collect about. 81%. And that's a high number. I mean, I wonder about the 20%. Like, you genuinely don't care? Okay, fine. But, and then, but also at the same time, they're comfortable. Like, the only 30%, 7% say that they're worried about it. Like, it's...
But I don't.
It's all over the place, really.
We switched our internet from Comcast to Frontier because we got fiber internet in our neighborhood a couple months ago. Awesome. But when I switched out the router, all my IoT devices stopped working. And most of them I've been putting off. But I have this one little button here on my Stream Deck that lets me turn my lights off and on so that I don't have to walk all the way across my office. And as I was joining it to my home network this weekend, I'm just thinking like, yeah, Peter and John would think this is terrible, but I don't care.
Because it is terrible, Mike. It is terrible. You've probably given away all your secrets to some government who's then going to sell it to, I don't know, some company or the other vice versa. And they're going to know when you're furiously masturbating every evening because you turn the lights down. I mean, come on.
But
this is not something you want other people.
I don't have to get up to turn the lights off.
Yeah.
So
you didn't think of that.
Of course, you can do things if you're technologically capable. You can do things like,
which I know.
creating a VLAN, putting all of them on there,
And I won't.
disconnecting the internet from them, not allowing them to phone home, right?
Uh-huh.
Because it's not only like, oh, what Peter said is actually kind of a shallow start to what they can do. Every device that we introduce onto our network can see all traffic that is passing on that network. So
It's just what I would do first.
if I have a little machine that lets me, do something like turn the lights off from my desk,
You've got one,
like
have you?
Mike.
Okay.
That little machine is going to be able to see every single thing that's happening on my network, unless I segment and compartmentalize my network. And if you do that, then you can protect yourself, right? You can protect yourself from the data collection. It might even be collecting the data, but it doesn't have anywhere to send it because it's not allowed to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I genuinely think that there is space in the market here for some kind of privacy device that you can just plug in, and it will be sensibly set up to protect give you a layer of privacy protection. It's kind of like a Pi-hole or something like that. That would not be a silver bullet, not like block everything. And obviously it would have to be something that didn't have a lot of false positives because people aren't going to use it otherwise. It can't be technically difficult to set up. A plug and play device, like a little router that then advertises itself as a Wi-Fi network or something that you can just switch over to, and it was like remotely managed by a professional team of people who have time to hire and train people to like look after the filter lists, and tweak it and have a decent test lab set up that will be able to find problems with like fridges and light bulbs and whatever that might have problems, but just basically stops your smart TV telling the world what you're watching at any given time. So
as you were talking through that, I was thinking about I have an Eero device that covers Wi-Fi for my house. Everything connects to that. So could I set that up with like segmented VLANs, whatever? But as I was going through the setup of this thing, it doesn't support the 5. What is it? It's not 5G. What are the Wi-Fi options?
5 gigahertz.
5 gigahertz and 2 point something. So a lot of the IoT devices don't support 5.0 big networks
because of the increased range that they need. Yeah.
Right. So when I go into Eero, it's got a little button that just says disable 5G for the next 10 minutes so that I can conveniently connect it all my old, shitty, cheap IoT stuff to my network. So they're not even trying to why else would I need to do that if not to join some IoT device to my network?
No, but that is why.
They're making it easy. They're like the solution is just
it's not, but it's not only for your IoT shitty devices. It's also for like older devices that don't have 5.0, because a lot of devices aren't smart enough to say like, hey, give me 2.4 to the router, right? So like they fail to join the network because of the conjoined 2.4 and 5.0. So that's why.
You're right. The capability is there.
Wait, what's your question, Mike?
Just that, like, I felt like they made it so easy for me to join this thing, but there was no easy option for me to join it safely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The capability is there.
Right.
Why would they?
Well,
Eero themselves are collecting data to you and sending it to Amazon. That's an Amazon-owned company, right? Like, isn't it? Didn't Amazon acquire Eero?
Amazon Eero.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But like what? I mean, it's no different than any other router. What router? I mean, set aside Eero, any router could do that has Wi-Fi. Like, I have the same problem if I have a TP-Link.
Yeah, so there's only really one network company that is doing it currently that isn't enterprise. That it's prosumer. What?
Oh,
prosumer, not like enterprise. The company's called GLINet.
Okay, well, look at that.
GLINet. Yes.
Horrible name.
It's a terrible name. They are super cool.
Connecting the world to secure Wi-Fi. Sponsored by. We've got our first sponsor for the podcast. We don't have our first sponsor.
They ship their products with OpenWRT. If you don't know what OpenWRT is, it's a custom open source Wi-Fi firmware that you can flash onto routers.
Yeah,
like what
I had that running on a TP-Link router for a while.
Yep, it's really good. because it lets you do all the things that the consumer shit don't let you do, right? Because it's like the same argument of why do banks not have advanced 2FA? Why can't I add my security key to a bank? Anyone know the answer?
Because it's hard. Because it's difficult. It increases the people complaining, I guess.
Yes.
End users.
Yeah, literally. It is two parts. The legacy systems that are so fucked in American banking and Western banking, and two, the user error would skyrocket in numbers. They would lock themselves out of their accounts all the time. So banks take the approach of lower security for better usability.
Yeah. So I guess that research that's saying, to tie it back to the article, which, maybe we don't need to do, but like the thing about 37% of people who, what is it? What's the actual stat again? Let me find it. Just doing this live, guys, because, we like to, I can't find it. No, sorry. 37% of people feel overwhelmed by figuring out what they need to do. Yeah. That's already high enough. And making it any
but at
higher
the same time, 78% trust themselves to make the right decisions. That's not possible.
Right.
No, but it is living in ignorance, right? Like, oh, well, I'm aware of what I'm sharing. And it's like, you have no fucking idea what you're sharing. You have no clue what you're sending out every single day.
I think it's also that because people just aren't willing to pay for this stuff, that people just go for the cheapest option. So
of
people
course.
who are making a Wi-Fi device that might let you easily connect to IoT devices don't have any much incentive to actually make it so that is a secure network. You could do. There's all sorts of different ways to do it as well. You can do it with like the eDNS 0 packet, part of a DNS traffic. You can do it with IPv6 and fancy routing tricks, and I don't know, all sorts of stuff. But like people just don't, because it's difficult, and you need a bit more resources and a bit higher CPU on the router and all those kind of things. So it pushes the cost up marginally, and they don't see the return on their investment for it.
And
so
also,
I don't know.
Peter, don't forget, the reason there isn't a solution that isn't like a cookie cutter packed in a nice box, plug into your router, and it fucking plays nice and everything, is because there is simply no demographic. There is not enough people who care to go spend $100, $200 on this product and protect their network. Even though 80%
of people
they might be concerned, right? Yeah, 80% are concerned. They're not concerned enough to go spend $200 to protect themselves. They're not concerned enough to get educated to protect themselves, and that I think is a huge problem.
There's a disconnect between I'm worried about this, and then doing something about it, I suppose.
We've been worried all our lives, right? Like back in the day, we were worried about the atomic clock, like the
climate change.
Yeah, we were worried about climate change. But are you willing to go buy an electric car and sell your gas car, right? Or even better, are you willing to not sell your gas car, take it to the pound, and have them crunch it, and then go buy an electric car, literally decreasing your carbon footprint? Because if you sell it, you haven't decreased anything. You've just exchanged, right? Like, so, no. The answer is no. And the same thing, I think, comes for privacy, too.
I don't want to be too righteous here, because I think I am absolutely a hypocrite in these things.
I have a gas car. Yeah. I mean, it's just an example.
I think this conversation is depressing me. in the sense...
We're all terrible people.
No. Well, so people who know about and can use DWRT should and will, but like you said, there's no commercial product for this. So if my ISP is Comcast or Blue Ridge or AT&T or Frontier or whoever, I'm getting their off-the-shelf consumer device, and it's not going to support any kind of real security. So in the meantime, we're here shouting into the void of security when 80% of people think they're doing what they need to be doing. 30% are overwhelmed by the whole thing, and we're like, no, you should be doing more. You're not doing it right. You got to do this. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Why do we do the show?
Nobody cares.
I think
it's over. We're ending the show.
That's it.
I think the best we can hope for is a middle ground, something that's kind of like, I don't know. There's some regulations in place that kind of restrict the companies' use, but also there's a financial incentive for companies to have some kind of privacy that they provide for you. Some way that that limits it into like an acceptable level of I don't know, something that's not too bad, basically.
The trick there, Peter, I think the trick there would be to sell it to the consumers. Convince the consumers they want to be protected. Enough for them to abandon Comcast for Frontier, just as an example, right?
But also enough that I'm going to go through the hassle of going to every IoT thing in my house, figure out how to reset it, figure out how to rejoin it to the network, test it, try and figure out why it's not working the way it's supposed to. Like,
generational problem. Nope, we have sold convenience. We talked about this before. We have sold convenience to a point where if setup is hard, I'm not doing it. I'm returning
100%.
it. If I can't get this thing working in 2 minutes or less, it's out the door.
Yep.
And that goes for everything. That could be my robot vacuum, right? Like that could be my smart lights. Anything and everything. If it is too hard to configure, out the door.
And I kind of like personally, I know the risks. I have the knowledge and ability to mitigate them.
You have weekly reminders from your co-host.
And to your point, John, I just think like, it's not worth it. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. Jesus. Well,
so what are the chances that any normie's going to do it?
Zero. Of course. You have to sell them on it. You have to convince them how important it is. And
but you have to convince me first.
And I
can't even convince me.
I did, but you have short-term memory. I've always said, I say this all the time.
Okay, so
you have short-term memory.
You think it's going to be better with data? Everybody else,
how the data is abused? No, not at all. And no one is getting. Like with Roe versus Wade. How many fucking weeks in a row am I going to use this example? Every time I come back to this example of how insane that is, that we are using somehow legally, we are using the data of pregnant women who want to go get an abortion and then charging them or harassing them or whatever, and redirecting them to one of those centers that isn't an abortion clinic, right? Because they purchase ad space on Google. So they get to be the first result. So they go to these fucking clinics that convince them that, Christ is whatever the fuck, and they need to keep the baby because you'll go to hell otherwise. Like, this is insane. And yet you can't, and yet
Google yesterday sent me an email saying, hey, we saw that you were at Taco Bell in Brownstown. Would you like to leave a review? Oh, here's your monthly email summary. Here's your monthly summary of all the places you went on your Google Maps this month.
I mean, that's because
I look at that, I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. Thanks. That's handy. Thanks, Google.
Still. The war is
Let me
lost,
post that to my Facebook page.
I do think that the war on privacy has lost. Like, we have lost it. Thanks to social media and disgusting tracking tactics. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't bring awareness to a person that might Google or YouTube search who's curious. And we could be the shepherds to the people who are curious and maybe want to go down the road of enhancing their privacy and security.
Yeah.
I will convince them.
Well, to our 20 viewers on this video, we hope that you've learned something. And we enjoy educating and subscribing. Please do subscribe. We do talk about this stuff quite a lot, and we genuinely are passionate about it, as you might be able to tell if you're still listening. Otherwise, have a great day, guys.